Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on April Fool's Day. Although I promise you, this is not a joke. We're here to do the Audubon page turning. Thank you again for joining us. Feel free to put in the chat any questions you have throughout the program and share with us where you're joining from. We're here today for the April page turning, and I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest speaker today. But first, I want to make sure that you've got May 6th marked on your calendar. Peter Logan, Bowdoin class of 1975, will be joining us to share several really exciting discoveries he's made about Audubon and his work, including new information about composite plates that we heard all about last month from Jeff Holt and Bert Filmer. So I'm going to switch the camera back over. My dear colleague, Aubin White, is here, and she'll be the other set of hands that you see. And then we'll introduce our speaker and pass things over. Okay, you ready? So for those of you just joining us, the reason we're not wearing gloves is because we have a better sense of touch with the paper. So I'll zoom in just a little bit for all of you. Look. We do have some visitors here in the reading room who are going to get a little bit closer. Sorry, I'm just working on my Zoom. Okay. So I am delighted to welcome our guest speaker, Sejal Prachand, who is a current sophomore and biology major at Bowdoin. She is originally from Chicago, Illinois, where she first started birding in December 2020. In the short time since then, she has found a passion that she hopes to turn into a career in ornithology. Sejal enjoys sharing her love of birds and learning about birds from others, and she leads weekly bird walks and other events in the Bowdoin Naturalists with the Bowdoin Naturalists. Sejal has many favorite birds, but one that always makes her happy to see and hear is the black-capped chickadee. And I heartily agree with that. So thank you for joining us, and I'll pass things over to you. Let me get the microphone a little bit closer to you. That'll be helpful. Okay, excellent. We'll do a combo. There you go.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. Oh my. Okay.
Emergency.
All right. I'm really excited to get to talk about these birds. Some of my favorite warblers. I thought I'd start off with what Audubon had to say about them, which is a little bit funny. So he says, "You are now presented with a new and beautiful little species of warbler, which I have honored with the name of a family that must ever be dear to me. I trust that future naturalists, regardful of the feelings which have guided me in naming this species, will continue to it the name of Rathbone's wood warbler." It's now called the Yellow Warbler, so that just did not work out for him at all. Not even in the Latin name is the Rathbone family honored. Latin name Setophaga peticea. So people just did not want to continue this Rathbone situation. I'm not sure why. Moving on to the bird itself, which is, I think, what we're here, at least what I'm here for. Audubon says, "I met with the species now under consideration only once. All my endeavors to discover their nest or to procure other individuals having proved abortive, I am unable to say anything of their habits in history." This also struck me as weird because the Yellow Warbler is one of the most widespread warblers in the country. You can find them breeding just about everywhere from coast to coast and even most of Alaska except the far northern bit. And while they don't breed in the little southeast area between Texas and South Carolina, they still migrate through there. So I'm not sure, maybe he saw them and thought they were something else. I have no idea what was going on with him. Personally, even though I've only really birded one spring, I've seen yellow warblers 6 times, or 11 individuals, in both Chicago, my hometown, and Sitka, Alaska. So quite widespread distribution. As you can see in the illustration, they are really striking bright yellow, including the edges of their wings and under the tail, which makes them the yellowest of the yellow warblers. There are like a gajillion warblers that are yellow, but this is the yellowest yellow warbler, which is a little confusing. Additionally, these birds like to hang out in forest edges and near water, so they're a little easier to spot. And they have a song that's easily remembered with the mnemonic, "Sweet, sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet," which sometimes you hear the mnemonic and sometimes you don't. I have to say, I don't hear it, but it's kind of cute. So since these birds are pretty easily spotted and heard, they're pretty well studied. Their migration patterns are kind of interesting. Birds from one side of the country and the other will sometimes cross paths in migration, which is interesting. And they also are really heavily parasitized by brown-headed cowbirds. So brown-headed cowbirds will often lay their eggs in yellow warbler nests. And because of that, they have co-evolved some really interesting adaptations, which I'm going to talk about because I think it's super cool. So yellow warblers make this call in addition to their song. It's called the seat call. And it turns out that this call specifically references brown-headed cowbirds and nothing else. So when a yellow warbler makes or hears that call, they'll rush back to the nest to protect it from having like some enemy eggs laid in there. And it turns out, so brown-headed cowbirds normally lay eggs like bright and early in the morning, as many birds do. And it turns out that female yellow warblers, when they hear the seat call, even if they hear it during the day, they will protect their nest more in the morning, like when brown-headed cowbirds are likely to be laying eggs, which I just think is really cool. They have some sort of like increased vigilance in response to that call. Additionally, the response to the call is context dependent. So if a male yellow warbler is unpaired and they hear the call, they won't do anything special, won't really react. But if a paired male hears it, he will act with a lot more aggression and more vocalization. I just think that is just so cool. Like these are really smart birds and they're like tiny and their brains are correspondingly like itty bitty. So it's pretty impressive that they do this. And not only do yellow warblers respond to the seat call, but it turns out red-winged blackbirds eavesdrop on this call. So red-winged blackbirds are also victims of brown-headed cowbird parasitation. Brown-headed cowbirds also lay their eggs a lot in red-winged blackbird nests. And it turns out that red-winged blackbirds have co-evolved with yellow warblers and brown-headed cowbirds, where they now know to respond to yellow warbler seat calls as if it was a brown-headed cowbird. And it turns out this too is context dependent. So in research that came out just in October 2021, so hot off the press, it turns out that red-winged blackbirds react most to seat calls during the egg laying period. They don't care as much when it's during incubation because brown-headed cowbirds aren't going to lay their eggs during that stage. So again, context dependent and flexibility. So I talked earlier about how yellow warblers are kind of common, and I think a lot of us as birders don't get excited about common birds, but I feel like all this vocalization and brown-headed cowbird stuff, like there's so much more to all these birds that we might originally think. And so I don't know, listen for the seat call and maybe you'll see some cool eavesdropping and espionage occurring. That's all I have. I would love to take questions from you guys. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Since we have a small group here in the reading room, thank you. That was amazing. And I know very little about birds, but that was incredible. I learned so much. I'm waiting to see if we get any questions here in the chat. Do you all have any questions? Put you on the spot.
Sure.
Question, Sejal. Are there nests? Because Audubon said that there are nests. You can find their nests. Are there nests particularly hard to find? They're camouflaged in some way?
Honestly, no. So again, it's just a weird, like, I'm not sure why he was struggling so much. Maybe he was looking in the wrong place. Like, but yeah, they're open cup nests. They're not particularly well hidden. So, which probably increases like why they're so heavily parasitized by brown-headed cowbirds. Yeah. If anybody's interested in taxonomy, I can tell you a little bit about that too. But
Cool.
There's a question here from Janet. Why or how did you start birding?
Yeah, so I was home for Bowdoin has a month-long winter break, which is very long to have nothing to do. So I was home in Chicago for the winter and had nothing to do. So I kind of on a whim asked to borrow my dad's binoculars, and I started biking around with those binoculars. And one day I saw a red-breasted merganser just like in a harbor, and I was like, how has this bird been here and existed? And I had no idea about it whatsoever until just now. And I was like, there is a whole world here that I don't know about that is so diverse and so fascinating, and I was just hooked.
That's awesome. Can I ask a follow-up question to that? So you sounds like you started birding in a variety of different places. I'm curious about birding in Maine versus Chicago or something.
Yeah, I think so. Chicago, since I know it so much better and I like know a lot of good hotspots to go to, it's almost easier to bird there.
Mhm.
And also since public transportation is so much more viable, that you can get to a lot of different places. Birding Maine is really interesting. You see so many cool ducks, and it brings you into different habitats. Chicago, the habitats are a lot of urban parks, which can be really productive. There's this place called Magic Hedge that like birders from all over will come for migration. But here, it's not just about seeing birds in little areas. It's also about getting to see Maine.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, very cool. Oh, more questions popping up. Oh, how many different types of ducks have you seen? Is the question here in the chat.
Oh my. Okay. So I've seen all of the three mergansers, red-breasted, hooded, and common. If I go through all of this, it will take us a while, I'll say. If we're talking like strictly ducks and not other waterfowl, I don't know. You know, mallards, everybody's seen mallards, widgeons, Eurasian and American. I don't know. I've seen a lot of ducks, actually. I have a shirt with ducks on it, and I've seen all of the ducks on there except for one.
Awesome, great. So you've seen the t-shirts worth of ducks. at
Yeah,
least.
yeah. So I would say at least like 15
Very
ducks,
cool.
solely ducks, not other waterfowl.
Great. Oh, that was a question from your mom.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
Well, is there a bird that you're just dying to see? That's like really like.
Well, the Stellar Sea Eagle, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, it's like a mega rarity. So they're only ever in Japan and Russia. But then one has been in Maine for 3 months. So the first time I went to go see it, missed it by an hour.
Oh.
Second time, missed it by half an hour. Third time, missed it by 15 minutes.
So you're getting closer.
But it hasn't been spotted recently.
Okay.
So it might be somewhere else. I don't know. But that I would love to see. I'm hoping to see some American woodcocks, which is definitely more in reach. I'm going to go tonight and see. They're really silly birds. They're shaped like little footballs, and they hold their heads like really into their body, and they make really funny noises. Like, I can't describe it. You just have to look it up. They're really
I've only
weird.
ever heard them. I've never actually seen them. Yeah, and they make very amusing sounds.
Yeah, and luckily they're breeding here, so they're easier to spot. But I definitely recommend looking them up. They're really silly.
Awesome. Well, Sejal, thank you so much. Unless there's any lingering questions. No. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to share this with us. And I'm just really, really grateful that you joined us today. So thank you again, and we'll see the rest of you next month.